Hey there, and welcome to another Adobe Express live lesson. This week we are doing the Holocaust Memorial challenges, and we're going to be doing two of them. We're going to start with a challenge that will be the creation of a textbook page with information about somebody you may never have heard of who was an unsung hero of the Holocaust. And then we will go ahead and do a second challenge, and this will be a narrated video using the video timeline editor in Express, as well as your own voice to narrate a timeline of the events of the Holocaust. So we'll get started. Now, the first thing that you need, of course, is this. You need your challenge website, and this page can be accessed at bit.ly/express HOLO, bit.ly/express holo. And here is a QR code if you want to scan that as well to get to this page. And for the first challenge, we're going to be learning about Miep Gies. Miep Gies, an unsung hero of the time of the Holocaust, who helped out the family of Anne Frank and actually was responsible for gathering the pages and the book of Anne's diary and giving them over to her father Otto so that it could be published. The second challenge will be our Holocaust timeline video that we're going to create in Adobe Express. We'll use the video editor and voiceover capabilities to make that video. Both of these will be very easy to follow along, so let's get going. Now, to get started on the first challenge, we come over here to the Adobe Express homepage. Let's open up the little purple plus right here, and I'll just type flyer. This will bring up an 8.5 by 11 page, which is exactly what we want. Now, you may have noticed that in the example that was given, I used a textured piece of paper that made it feel like it had some age to it. And in order to do that, all you have to do is simply search in the photos for old paper. Very simple. You'll find lots of good options. I really like this one. And when I place it onto my canvas, I can rotate that, and we'll just put it up here to make sure that it fills the entire canvas like this. And I'll just reposition that, and there we have our page. And we're off to a good start. Now, we want to have a little bit of a border around the page, and to do this I would use my elements. Under shapes, you have different options for rectangles, one of which is a rectangle with a border. We'll place that there, drag it up here into the corner, and I'll just resize that. And don't worry, we can move it to the center in just a moment very easily, but I'll try and eyeball it first. We're going to get rid of this color in the middle, this fill, just by tapping over here. Now we're only left with the border. The border we're going to change to a red color. I'll go to my custom colors and use something like this. It's a little less saturated, a little more sort of towards the orange. Now let's change that border thickness. I can either slide with the slider here, or I can enter a value in this text box. I think I'll just put 6 and see how that looks. I think that looks pretty good. All right, next we need our photo of Miep Gies. To get the photo, all you have to do is visit our web page again, and here you'll find the Facts About Miep Gies button. And this will take you to a Google Doc where we'll also have the photos. You can simply copy and paste them, or you can download them to your machine and then upload them. I'm going to go to the media and upload the photo. I've saved it right here, and I'm going to place it up here in the top left corner and rotate it just a little, like this. And I want to make it look like it's aged a little bit, so it's not just pure black and white, but maybe has a bit of a discoloration to it. That's really easy to do. We can use our effects right here, and this option in the second row is tint. If you tap on these little sliders here, you can adjust the intensity of that tint. So I'm just going to reduce it quite a bit, as you can see. We're all set. We want to show that this has been pinned to the paper. This is a fun graphic device. So we'll go over to Media, and in Photos, I'm going to do a little search for a pin. This is exactly what I want. I don't need all three of these. I just want to use this one over here on the right. If I tap on the image and drag from the left, I can crop the photo to use only part of it, like so. The next thing I'll do is remove the white. By tapping on the dog over here for Remove Background, Express will study the image and it will get rid of the background, which is all white. Rotate this slightly and move it into position here. We'll make that a little smaller. There. Now the pin is going to be pushing into the photo and the paper underneath. So a really fun thing to do is tap on the photo itself, and we're going to just erase a little circle where the point of the pin makes contact there. Under Erase, you have a quick selection and a circle brush option. As I move the circle, I can see how big it is, so I can reduce that circle until I get a size I like, and then just tap one time like that. Now I've got a little hole in the photo. Next, we want to create a shadow for the pin. This is really simple to do. Tap on the pin, and now duplicate it right here. I'll take that duplicate layer and slide it under the original. And the next thing we can do is we can blur it out. Under Adjustments, the very last option we have is Blur. Now, I've just made it a slight blur at about 6. You'll see how effective that is in a moment. I'll make it a little smaller than the original pin, and now rotate it counterclockwise like this. Now you might be wondering, well, if it's green, it doesn't really look like a shadow, does it? Not to worry. Here, you can reduce the saturation, and that makes it all go away. So we're left with gray. And next, you can set a blend mode right here to multiply. This will make it blend or multiply with everything underneath. I'll reduce the opacity so it's more transparent. See that? Maybe about 60 or 55%, something like that. And now we've created a nice drop shadow for that pin. Now you notice we're using a red for the border, so we may as well take our pin and change its color as well. And this can be done with Effects. And right here you'll see a duotone option. Tap on the duotone, and if you want, you can open up your adjustments, maybe increase the contrast a little bit, reduce the brightness, try and match that color if you wish. But that looks pretty good. Now we did add a nice shadow for the pin, but what about the photo? It would be cool if the photo felt like it was maybe partially detached from the paper. This is also really easy to do. If I go into the media again, I'm going to search for a photo and just search for rectangle. All right, lots of choices here. I really don't need anything too specific. I just need a plain rectangle. I don't want it to have any detail in it. So as I scroll down, I'm looking for something like this. Basically just a piece of paper. Now, if I remove the background, I'll be left with nothing but this piece of paper in the middle. And using the same trick we used a moment ago, I'll position it over here at a slightly different angle from the paper. And I'll make it larger like this, and then crop it a little bit. Now, of course, it's a shadow, so we have to slide it under our photo. like this. And now that I can see it more clearly, I can crop it a bit more, get the size exactly where I want it to be. And you remember what we did? Under Adjustments, we blurred. So I'll blur it a little bit. Next, we need to take the brightness down, take the highlights down, reduce the saturation, and then we can, again, set it to a multiply mode right here under Blend. There we go. Using the arrow keys on my keyboard, I'm going to reposition it slightly and then reduce the opacity, maybe to 60% or so. And you can see what that does. Now I want to make sure that the blurriness is visible here. And so I'll crop from the top where it doesn't matter whether or not we see it. And I think that looks pretty cool. Now down here, we're going to have a little section of our page that will be calling out a quote from Anne Frank from her diary talking about Miep geese. And the way we're going to do that is by using a rectangle. Under Elements, we have Shapes. I'll place a rectangle down here. Like this. And then I'm going to change its color. Right here, we can use a fill color. What I want is to actually use a color from the paper, something like this. And once again, I'm going to use a blend mode, like that, multiply. I'll reduce the opacity to about 50%. And now we have a different section of the paper. I think the color is a little warm, but it's easy to adjust that. If I push it a little cooler and maybe desaturate it a bit like this, I can get a little closer to what I'm looking for. I'm also feeling like the paper texture, while I like it, might be a little intense. So once again, I can select that and reduce its opacity as well, right here, maybe to about 70%. Now here I want a little page from Anne's diary. And again, we have a photo for you here on the Facts About Miep geese document that is linked from the button. I've gone ahead and downloaded that, and I'm going to crop it now. So once again, I go to Media and Upload from my device. And here is the diary. I just want to use the right side of this. So I'll crop until I arrive here. Position this towards the bottom, like so. Make sure I leave some space on the right and underneath here. And this is where I will put my quote. You'll find the quote also on the Facts About Miep geese page, here at the bottom of the first page, and you can copy that by selecting it, copying it. And now I want to add text. This is obviously too big, so here I'll change the size, start with about 80. Let's see how that looks. I want this text box to not be quite so wide. We'll place that there. And then I can resize it from the corner. That feels pretty good. As for the color of the text, I'd like again to make it something warm and dark, but not entirely black. So I'll go here towards this orange color and select a deep, dark, reddish brown, like this. Now I think this font is okay, but I'd like to have one that has serifs. Those are those little decorative elements you see on the letter forms. You can also go to recommended fonts and see what options are presented to you by Express. I actually like this one too. There, that's a great font. That's called Acuta. Now what I don't want is one word sitting all by itself down here. So by playing with the width, I'm able to get a nice even break, like that. And now we need to know where this quote came from. So going back to our quote, we have here, from the Diary of Anne Frank, entry of January 28th, 1944. Copy that. I'll take this same text and duplicate it again. And then replace what's written there with our diary entry. I'll make this a little wider so everything fits on one line, and then make it smaller. And let's see if we have some other options for Acuta. I don't see anything for italics. So again, I can look at our recommended fonts. And this is kind of what I'm looking for, something with italics. Noto, serif. It also has other options, which is great. So I think I'm looking for something a little bolder. We'll use the medium italic like that. I'll move that into place and center it under the quote, giving it some breathing room here. You can zoom out and look at everything. Scoot this over a little bit. And if you want, you can grab this type, hold down the Shift key, and grab the type underneath it, and just move that around to get it exactly where you want. I think I might crop this a bit. And give this a little more room over on the left. Next, we need a title. Who was Miep Gies? Again, I really like this type, so I'll duplicate it. And I'm going to write Miep Gies. Now that's too small for a title. So of course, I'll just bring the side in there and then pull from the corner to make it much larger. I'll move that up here. I'm going to adjust the letter spacing, make it a little tighter. That looks good. And for the who, was, I remember I saw a lot of options in this font, as well as options in the first font that we used. If I take this and duplicate it, I can move it up to the top here. And I can write in all caps, who was. And then let's take a look at some of these other options. Semi-bold, that looks pretty good. Now again, it's time to resize our font. Drag from the corner, and then we'll try this. Center it. That spacing looks okay. I think it feels like it's sitting a little to the right because the question mark doesn't feel like a letter form. So just to visually center it, I'll slide that over to the left a little bit. For both of these, I'd like to use the same color we used over here. So I'll call up my eyedropper tool again, right there, and then move it over. Now that we've added some color to the text, I think it looks a little more interesting. Plus, it makes it stand out. It's also large, and so we clearly understand that this is a title for the page. All right, I'm visually centering it up here in the top right. We need to add some text underneath it, and that is the body text that we have available on the information page again, right here. All you have to do is select it, copy it, and then paste it into another text box. We'll go to Text, add your text, and we'll paste it. Don't worry if it's too big. Remember, you can manually change the text right here. I'll put about 50. See how that looks. Then we can move from the side here. And we can change the justification, move it to the left. I'll slide this up so it aligns nicely with our title. And then I'll change this to the darker color we used down here. Now if I'm lucky, it might have saved the color, but it didn't. So we'll go over to Custom again, and we're roughly in that same zone. We don't want this to be too bold, so we'll just make it regular. And now we need to create some spacing. So let's go ahead and do that. Just add a little return after each of the paragraph breaks. And then now we have our separate paragraphs. So that looks pretty good. I think we could, if we want, make the font just a little bigger. Let's try 54. There. And we're almost finished. Over here, we want to add some facts about Meep. Let's go back to the Holocaust Memorial information, and here you'll find everything you need. So let's copy this information, and we'll come back over here. And once again, I'll use text. Now, I know this is too large, but again, I can guess at a size here. We're going to go a little larger than our body copy. I entered 70. I'll just write her name one more time. In all capital letters. Move the justification to the left, and then paste what we have. You want that to fit, so we'll slide that over. For her birth name, what I'll do is I'll delete the words birth name, and I'll copy her birth name, put it underneath her name here. And then I'll just make that an italic. And I'll put the letter N with a period in front of it, which stands for nay, or the name given as when she was born. We'll make this a little larger. We have her years she was living, and then the recognized by Yad Vashem as righteous among the nations in 1972. Make that break a little bigger there. Now, a nice thing you can do with a piece of information like this to call it out is use a design element next to it, like a little line. So I'll just go over to our elements, and under shapes, you'll find lines down here. If I view all of them, there's a simple straight line right there. And you'll see how this works. I'm going to position it right there. Make it a little bit thicker. Right now it's set to 4. I'll just double that. And then use again the color from the border and from the text. And that does a really nice job of organizing this information. Another nice thing you can do is use a different font from what you see here, and that also helps to separate it. For this, perhaps we'll use something that has no serif. Let's go to the recommended fonts and see what options we have. That's pretty good. Just have to make it a little smaller. And another thing you can do is use the same color as the bar. You can see I've done just a little bit more editing of this text here, making this bold, the rest is italicized, and then calling out righteous among the nations here. I think also calling out this organization, Yad Vashem, will benefit from being a little bolder, so we'll use the semi-bold italic weight of that font. The only thing remaining to do to finish this is add a little drop shadow under this page for consistency. For the shadow, I can actually use the same photo, duplicate it, place it under the original, slide it over to the left a little bit, and next, you remember these tricks we have. Under adjustments, I can decrease the saturation, the highlights, bring the shadows down, bring the brightness down, and then blur it a little bit, and then set it to multiply right here under blend, and reduce the opacity. And it's very subtle, but I think it does the trick. And there's your text page design. Who was Miep Gies? We have some good facts about her life, what she did. We have a quote from Anne and her diary, and some more basic facts over here. And you're good to go. Now let's move on to the second challenge. Back on our Express live lesson page for the second challenge, you're going to find a description and then a Holocaust timeline. This will open up another Google Doc, and here you'll have a timeline for the Holocaust with these 5 sets of dates. Each of them will be narrated and added to the video as audio. So let's get started. Back on our Express homepage, we're going to go to the purple plus, or you can use the video option right here on the homepage. If you don't see this option, remember you can go to suggested sizes for video or type video right here. Create from scratch, and you're ready to create your first scene. Now for the title, you could have what was the Holocaust or a timeline of the Holocaust. It's up to you. You can use whatever title you feel is best. I think I'll just say a timeline of the Holocaust. So to start, I'll actually add a video clip, and I'll use various videos with Holocaust as the options that we have here. I think I'll start with this, showing a candle with the Star of David. And we can add text. So let's go here and add our text. For the text, we're going to want to, of course, change the color. I'll just go ahead and use white for now. Now, after looking at it some more, I've decided that a timeline of should be its own block of type. and that I would duplicate that, and on this side, lining it up, write the Holocaust, because I think this is a better design. I like having the candle in the middle between the two, like so. Now, if I want to see what that looks like, we just hit play, and you can see the candle now burning. And this is the title. And the title card will hold the audio from our first description here. So I will read this out. I find it's easiest to select the text and copy it, and then paste it directly onto my frame. So I'll add text, and then paste that. I'll make it nice and big so I can read it clearly, and then I can add my audio. So under Media, we tap on Audio and record voiceover. The Holocaust was the systematic murder of Europe's Jews by the Nazis and their collaborators during the Second World War. You'll see that it's added the audio over here as a separate piece, but we're going to move that over here and then change our timing by dragging the little handles so that now my audio will fall over the video. After I've done that, I can remove that text because I no longer need it. Now let's listen by moving the playhead back and hitting play. The Holocaust was the systematic murder of Europe's Jews by the Nazis and their collaborators during the Second World War. Now for a timeline and the Holocaust, I'd like to add a little animation. So let's come down here under Animation and Animate In. I think a fade is good or a drift is good. A timeline of. And then for the Holocaust, we'll do the same. We'll animate it with a drift, but we'll come from the other side. Using the arrows down here, I can select the other side. There we go. And now we can watch back. The Holocaust was the systematic murder of Europe's... Okay. Next, we move on to another scene where we'll have to use a fact. So let's go over to the timeline. The Nazi Party grows from a small political group to the most powerful party in Germany. This is from 1918 to 1933. Actually, I'll copy all of that so I can remember it when I read it. Now we need another image here, or we could use a video file. I think for this, we'll take a look and see what we have available as video. And if we do not have anything good, we can use photos. None of those are really working, so let's take a look at photos. I think this photo is a good representation of the frightening situation in which the world found itself. And so I'll use this, and up here I'm going to use a date. And you'll remember that I copied the text. So I can paste that and resize it. Make sure that I can see it when I do my audio, and then I'll design this page. Once again, we record. (1918 to 1933). The Nazi Party grows from a small political group to the most powerful party in Germany. I'm going to separate these into two pieces of type. I've just removed the date. And with this, I'm going to actually use some effects. Under text effects, you have things like shadows and shapes. I'm going to employ a shape. This one here is what I want. It's one of the decorative shapes. I also want to use a different color. Tap on the shape itself. You'll see there are little sliders here, and you have an option for the shape fill color. So I think a deep dark red like this will work. And as for the type itself, I'm going to make that a sort of gold color like that. Now we can resize this and move it to the center of our video. And if you want to leave the narration, you can. It could be a block of text. And it could also use a shape to contain it. I can increase the size of the shape for more breathing room, like this. For the color, I'll go ahead and use this same gold that we have above and reverse out the text so that the text is now the red. And that will add some consistency. Might need to be a little darker though. I'll go ahead and do that. We can check the audio, make sure it works.
1918 to 1933.
Here you can again add some animation. We'll go ahead and animate this in. And I think we'll use a fade and do the same with this text as well. Or perhaps it can rise like that. All right, so we now have our title card with a narration, and then we have our first date. What you want to do is repeat this for the remaining dates, and when you're finished with the narration and with each scene, you're ready to export the video. So we'll do one more. So for our next scene, we'll be talking about Hitler becoming Chancellor, and later the Reichsführer, and the Nazi Party changing the political, social, and economic structure of Germany. So perhaps here we could use a photo or video from Germany. I'll try Germany, black and white. Maybe we'll try that for photos. Actually, that's a good one because it does bring up a soldier. Now, what I can do is reuse this text. I'm going to select it, hold down the Shift key to select both, and then copy with Control-C. And then on this scene, I will paste what I had, and it pastes it in the same spot. Now because it's over the soldier's head, I can slide it over to the right or the left, try and find a spot for it, maybe down here. I think that works pretty well. You want to make sure it's legible, and I think the containment shapes help with that. And the years we're talking about are 1933 to 1939, so I'll copy those. And we'll place them here. And then we need our text. Copy that and paste it as well. In order to make this fit, I'm going to make it a little smaller. Try 36. Audio and record voiceover. Hitler becomes Chancellor, later Reichsführer, and the Nazi Party quickly changes Germany's political, social, and economic structure. If it adds another scene that you don't want, you can simply delete that scene, and then you can extend the scene to be long enough to contain the audio and the image, using those handles to drag. All right, we'll do a quick check and see how that sounds.
Hitler becomes Chancellor.
Okay, we're all set. So now I'm ready to create other scenes and then export the video. When you're finished, you can also add transitions, if you wish, between scenes. The little plus signs between your scenes here will help you with that. If I tap on one, I can say Add Transition. And here you have different options. I'll simply use a basic dissolve. I'll do the same with the first. And now when I move from one scene to another, there will be a dissolve, like so, and then again, like so. When you're finished with the video, tap on this option here to share it, publish to web, and then publish the link. This will create a video link. You also have the option to download your video here, and that will save it as an MP4 to anywhere on your machine that you choose to download. Thank you for joining me for these two challenges. Best of luck with them, and we'll see you again for another Adobe Live lesson very soon.